Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to Firing Range, a podcast where we talk about all things Destiny weapons, abilities, loadouts, and the sandbox at large. Boys, I'm going to go around the table to each one of you. Give me a one-word greeting. Drew.
Howdy.
Cool Guy.
Hello, everyone.
Mercules.
What's up?
You know me, my name is Fallout, and... hold on a minute. I believe we have a newcomer at the table today. If you'll remember from our initial episode, I mentioned there might be someone joining us moving forward who wasn't able to join us for episode 1. Well, he's here. Buddy, please introduce yourself to our friends listening at home.
Hi everyone, I'm Cammy. As you may have passed a video of mine in the past, I cover similar topics as all these gentlemen here, so I'm looking forward to talking on this podcast.
Booyah. Because we already got our free plug in last week. Where can the people find you, Cammy?
This would be youtube.com/CammyCakes Gaming and twitch.tv/CammyCakes.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you very much for being here, buddy. I know everyone was really looking forward to the potential of you being here. I tried to tease your name out a few times on Twitter. I think most people figured out who I was alluding to. But
Right, but now the family's together. We're doing it.
the 5 families are here at last.
The boys are here.
So how was your week, guys? What's going on in Destiny right now?
A lot of auto rifles.
Auto rifles, trials. It's a pretty crazy week.
Nothing else,
Trials,
though.
guys?
I've just been power leveling, man. I'm still low. And I was low in the first week of trials. That was kind of tough.
I spent my week in a cave.
Yeah, me and Cam did a lot of disgusting leveling, so we were definitely up there and grinded a lot of trials. More honestly, again, not that I wasn't excited, but more than I thought I was gonna play. I was amped. I was really excited once I saw it was farmable. It was just back to back to back.
Oh, did you boys do a lot of grinding last week?
We were raid bosses. It was exactly. People said, and I quote, it was something along the lines of, "Oh man, why can't power level be enabled so our hard work can show?" But then they're like, "Where's that boss music coming from?"
Yeah. Turns out someone else works harder and has a higher power level.
I'm not gonna lie. I was using Sturm for a few cards. Oh, I love Sturm. Sturm's awesome, but at a certain power level, you can 2-tap people with Sturm without Drang, just because the power level bonuses. So I was definitely doing a little bit of raid bossing.
My fighting lion would do shockwave damage. After I shoot, it just does that one Gemini Jester take across the map.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I loved going flawless. I loved playing. You know what I didn't love was running into you two schmucks when I was playing with Watts and a friend. I was like, all right, let's go. What is this team using right here? I was like, oh, okay. Wait a minute. This Drew, Cammy, and were you playing with EK, Equagan?
Yeah, we were at the time. We were playing with EK. Yeah, we were helping him get his flaws. So
Yeah.
we
That's rough,
definitely
buddy.
went for it. We had to go for
rough.
it.
I respect it. It was you had actually DM'd me, Drew, and you were like, "Yo, do you want to do a card?" And I was
Oh
like,
yeah, we were looking
yeah,
for
you did.
people.
I
Yeah,
was
we
like,
were.
"Nah, man, I'm running with Watson and somebody right now. We're full up, but I appreciate the offer." Fast forward 15 minutes, I'm like, "Oh God, what's about to happen?" Drew stream sniping me because I turned him down. Please no.
Yeah, we were looking for people to play with because I think it was Cam, it was me and you, right? We were looking for whether any of our clan mates or people that we wanted to connect with wanted to play, and then of course EK needed his flows, so we did ask you, as you know.
We eventually got in some games with Cool Guy, and he was under level as he did too, and so that's when we threw on the malfeasance.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, that was next level. That was hilarious.
So we got
Malfeasance and outbreak trials. Sorry.
Oh, I want to hear all about that later. Well, we have 2 topics today on the show. Our main topic, which I guess we're already getting into right now, is the Trials meta. So I gotta ask you guys, first day or first weekend, I think, of Trials, what is the condensed experience overall. How do you feel about it? Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? Do you think it needs improvement? Who wants to jump in?
All right, I can take it. I mean, that's a lot of hard light, a lot of revoker, but you know, I don't know how things are going to seem after a couple months of this meta, but I thought it was a really refreshing change of pace for what it has been for quite some time. You know, we've basically been spare benders for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and the play style that is required to use hard light and revoker is just so much different from what I'm used to running into all the time that, you know, make it annoying long term, but short term, I really, really enjoyed the change of pace from it. Now, like I said, we'll see how I feel 10 weeks down the road of the same thing. But for week one, you know, I had fun. And I wasn't using hard light revoker, so I was just going against it.
I had a really good time. I was underleveled for a lot of it. I didn't use hard light at all. I used Suros for about 4 rounds, not cards.
Now, when you say you were underleveled, just for the people at home, what is cool guy underleveled?
So I was about going into it was about 968, and then I got to like 972, 975. But the deal is with the power level advantage going against the 1010s and 10, like they deal 25% more damage to me, and I deal like 20% less damage to them. So like there's a huge gap, and I just can't miss. Like if I got hit by hard light, they could just almost body shot me down and achieve their TDK. Like it's insane. So I had to play a lot different. I mostly went with Revoker and Not Forgotten, just so Maghow can maybe put in some work, but Maghow was working kind of weird. Other than that, Suros did well. And I had to stick with teams. Like there's a lot of empowering rifts too with Revoker. Like it's just so weird what people were doing, and you can run into it at any given time. People were empowering rifts with hard light and just kind of just smoking me because I was so underleveled. But mostly, I think they did a really good job with it. You know, the 3-5 and go on the lighthouse. They did good with the lighthouse flawless loot. They can keep going back and back. I had a very pleasant experience, even though it was tough on my end.
Did it feel like Trials to you? Because that was a big thing that people were really worried about. I know that when Bungie pitched the Hey, Trials is coming back, we all kind of felt that it looked and felt the same like we knew it was from D1, but there was still that like lingering fear. Like, is this going to be too close to a Trials experience that people might not have enjoyed? Something closer to Trials of the 9, which didn't go over well in the long term. Did it feel like Trials?
I really liked it. I thought the whole experience was good. I think the changes they made to the cards, allowing you to have different ones rather than like a bunch of different advantages or boons you would buy, like in D1, I thought that was a really cool change. Being able to have, like, of course, the Mercy card. So it's like you got to go 7 wins, but you get your free loss. So 7-1, I believe. Then you can go the route of 1 less win required, but you have to go all the way through. You had the other ones, which was like I think it was the confidence one. I forget which one that was, but the double loot for no sort of advantage, like that was really awesome. I think that's really cool what they did with the cards, and that kind of changed up. It freshened it up a bit, which I like, even though it's still generally an older formula, I guess, which isn't a bad thing. I think it makes it feel like Trials and it was enjoyable. The being able to loot continuously was like amazing. Like, I think that's so huge for PvP. I know that you can, I guess, compare like a Nightfall or a Master Nightfall to the length of the Trials card, sure, but being able to get those upgrade materials, like I'm full on Ascendant Shards and all the other upgrade materials, and I have a really crazy roll set of gauntlets or a few of them now, simply because Trials lets you just loot over and over and over for all your falls, which is like really cool. It gives you more incentive to just keep playing and playing and playing and playing. So that was my favorite part.
I'm really glad you brought that up. We can have like a 2-minute sidetrack on that real quick. I've been having a lot of really heated discussions in Twitch chat about the fact that you can go and repeatedly farm the lighthouse for continuous loot. If you're listening right now and you didn't know that, it's true. In old D1 Trials, you go flawless, you get your loot, you're done on that character, right? At least that's the way I remember it. Now, reset your card. You go back. If you get to the lighthouse again on a fresh card, you can get more loot. It's not going to be a pinnacle drop. I think the first drop that week for that character is pinnacle.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, good. But after that, they are powerful drops. But whatever is in the loot pool that weekend, you can continuously farm that. Now, initially, I was like, wow, that's fantastic. I feel really good about this because I love playing Trials. It's very fun to me. And it's going to reward me with like end game level rewards. That's amazing. Who wouldn't do that? Then someone comes in my Twitch chat and is telling me, well, that could potentially hurt the player base in the long run because if you have someone who is maybe not fantastic at PvP, they're going to have to deal with people like us all weekends because some people who are really good at PvP might go one time flawless, then they're going to bounce out because they can't get any more loot. But then now that we can repeatedly farm, like if the shotgun is in the loot pool this weekend, I'm going to be farming that shotgun, boys. And that might mean like we're going to be in the population. It might make things harder for the average Joe. So it's like a double-edged sword. I really like that we get more loot, but I worried maybe a little bit about hurting the motivation about gatekeeping. Thank you. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
The way I look at it though is, I feel like a problem with Trials of the Nine. I love Trials of the Nine, but I feel like where it lost its luster was that it almost, the lighthouse didn't feel as exclusive anymore. It didn't feel like, as special anymore. You could even go there just to like redeem rewards. Of course, there was that portion that you had to go flawless for, but I feel like for a lot of people, it died quickly because it didn't have that prestige or specialness to it, in my opinion. And that reason to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and try and get that flawless. Like, and I believe D1, like there were people that would just go every weekend after another, pushing to get to the lighthouse because it was something so special. And I was really worried about that with this Trials because I feel like if that chase isn't there for a lot of players, if that motivation isn't there for people to get, even just to visit the lighthouse, to get that loot, if that's not there, then the population, I think, would dwindle. If everyone kind of does it, they beat the game, so to speak, kind of does their thing, I think things can die just as quickly. And I think going flawless should be a massive achievement. I think it should be something that is difficult, that is hard. Of course, there are going to be top tier players that are in the playlist as well and people that are very good, but I think that's part of what can really bring a lot of replayability to that, which is improving at the game, learning more about the game, and what you had to do along that journey to get your flawless and how you had to improve and what you had to do. And I think that's what makes it so special, at least for me. When I wasn't as good, even in D1, and then I went, did my flawless and everything, I think that's what kind of made it special to me, is the journey.
I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt. I mean, card-based matchmaking is already a thing, right? Like you're very, very, very rarely going to get an easy path to the lighthouse. With card-based matchmaking being a thing, your games are going to get harder, and there's always going to be good people playing Trials. Just because the good people are playing more now, I mean, when you get to round 7, you were probably going to be playing someone good anyways, right? I don't think for the average player, the fact that good players are grinding the lighthouse is going to make any difference to them. I don't think they'd be able to detect the difference, right? Because when they hit match 7, it's going to pick them versus another team that's also on match 7. And they're probably going to be pretty good because you have to be pretty decent to get in match 7 unless you get really, really, really lucky. Right. So I don't think it's going to hurt the population at all. And it kind of follows the trend of what, Bungie's been doing, where everything is more rewarding. I mean, look how easy it's been to grind Menagerie and to grind the Obelisk. And like what they're trying to do is like, okay, yeah, everything's going to have random rolls. Well, the biggest drawback of random rolls is sometimes you don't get the roll you want. Well, now you have a million chances to get the roll you want. Right. So you're still playing, you're still grinding. It's going to keep the population high. It's going to keep everyone in the playlist once they get it. I think it's almost universally a good thing. Now, if we didn't have card-based matchmaking, maybe that'd be a discussion that we could have. But because the matchmaking is the way it is, I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really good point with card-based matchmaking, because if you think about it, say you get to 7 wins for the first time, you tried all weekend, it happens Saturday night, you and your team. There's a strong chance there's another team that's just like you that got there too. So it's not going to be all the time you're playing 0.1% top PvP players.
Good point. Oh man, I'm really tempted to avoid this subject, but also really tempted to just throw it in.
That's what we're here for.
Just do it, boys. I'm doing it, boys. I was reading through Twitter replies, as you do.
Oh no.
I know, mistake. On the subject of card-based matchmaking. And I came across a fellow who was incredibly adamant about the idea of once you go flawless for the weekend, you are now removed from regular card-based matchmaking. You are put into a separate pool of matchmaking, only where you can fight against other people who have gone flawless.
So,
You know-
wow. I mean, Trials Prime, basically, right? But I mean, I'd be all for that if the population could support it, which I don't know if it can. But if the population could support it and it was voluntary for additional tiers of loot or for something else, right? For ornaments or something, right? If you want to voluntarily matchmake yourself against only other flawless players for bragging rights or for an emblem or for tournaments or anything like that, sure, you should be allowed to do that. It'd be a cool functionality. But forcing flawless players to get put into a pool is, I feel like, would be one of the quickest ways to just like kill, I mean, carry culture and basically everything that Trials has been built around for as long as we've known it. I feel like it would remove a large portion of it. That's just me.
It kind of hurts, right? Because like I feel like there's one part of me that's like, yeah, dude, I want everyone to. I want people to go to the lighthouse because it's fun. It's an experience. It's cool. It's part of what makes Trials hype. But like, if that was the thing, where we go flawless, now we get put into a separate special pen. The meta would be, okay, nobody play Trials all weekend. Wait for Monday night, because then all the tryhards, they're out of the pool. You know what I mean? Now it's like it's Kid Swim now, and we dive in, and like it's just easy because everyone's out of the pool, And then it's like, does the win still mean as much to you? Because like if you know that you went in with a super easy pool, I don't know.
I've always looked at Trials as the end game for PvP. Like, it's supposed to be hard.
Yep.
Oh man, I just know this topic is gonna get people riled
Well,
up.
the thing is, and like I gotta say it, like Cool Guy said, Trials is supposed to be hard. It is supposed to be difficult. It is supposed to be rewarding for people, that, were able to, and yes, put in the time, develop the skill, perhaps got lucky, I guess, with a streamer and have that experience with them to get flawless. Like that is the point of it. And now let's think though, what do you really get for going flawless? You get a pinnacle, you get enhancement materials, maybe an enhancement mod if you're lucky, or enhanced mod if you're lucky from the new ones. You also get the glow, cool. Right? You get the glow.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that the main stuff? That's the main stuff, right? I'm not missing anything.
You're forgetting the main thing, which is pride.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of not memeing there, because like you've been there when you
I agree. I just mean tangibly in terms of what you're getting in the game. You can do the bounties. You get tons of tokens. You can repeat. There's repeat bounties. You can farm. I had like an absurd amount of tokens by the end of the weekend to still get the weapons and the armor. So you aren't really missing out on too much of the reward thing if you're not going flawless technically. It really is, in my opinion, like you said, for the pride, like, and just having an avenue towards those, I guess, coveted materials if you want. I think that changing the matchmaking or entertaining the idea of the, once you're flawless, you're out of the pool. I think that's borderline starting to give out participation medals, which again, you can ridicule me for saying that, but I think that it's starting to more so just hand out participation medals and dilute the feeling and the pride and what makes going flawless special. So that's my opinion.
I mean, I sort of feel the same way about the Unbroken title over time, with the changes to the comp playlist, but no reparations for past Unbroken.
Yeah, it's an attrition playlist now as opposed to a skill-based playlist. If you weather, I was complaining about this on Twitter the other day, but if you weather comp long enough, you will eventually get to Unbroken, because you gain 200 to 400 points for a win and you lose 4 points for a loss, right? So it was, the other day I had a horrible experience where I literally was first on my team for 10 straight games and lost all 10 games and won one game at the end of it and was 100 points higher than I was before the 10 loss streak, right? Like it's very, very similar in terms of participation trophy, which is unfortunate because now Unbroken is the fourth most common title or something like that. Where
Yeah, I was gonna say that over time, it used to be a good signifier of if you see this title, you expect them to be very confident, and maybe that changes your approach. Like if you see them using a certain weapon type, but also have Unbroken next to their name, it makes you think, what are they doing differently that I can pick up on? Or now if they have it, it's not the same. They could still be a noob.
I mean, they did, like, statistically, mathematically make it easier to acquire the Unbroken. I still commend those who get there, because I do think comp can be a slog, but it
takes a lot of commitment.
It takes a lot of commitment. But I do feel that it probably was more when you saw someone in the wild with Unbroken before they made that change, it was like, whoa, dude's Unbroken. You know what I mean? Not to take away anything from those who have Unbroken, though.
It's still a pride thing, though, like you were saying about going to Lighthouse, because players want that. They want that title, even though it's much later. It might not mean what it did. That still means a lot to them. Now, Trials now is kind of upped from that, and I don't know how many flawless cards I went this first weekend, and I've gone flawless a whole bunch in D1. It's like it gets to a point you're building to be better. And for me, like over the weekend, I don't remember all my flawless runs. Like I remember the games I lost. Like those are the ones that stick out to me. So just what exactly happened, what I did wrong, what our team did wrong. It's like you learn and grow with the playlist. Like it's supposed to be hard. And eventually if you just keep doing it and build team chemistry, you can get there.
And I want to take on to that. Going back to what I said, I really do. It might sound cheesy. I'm a cheesy person, but I do believe that the journey, the getting together with a team or friends and going every weekend and maybe struggling to get to like 3 wins and then getting to 5 and then struggling to get to 6 and like, later on getting to 7, that climb, that journey together of improving and knowing what it took, the dedication, the hard work, and the fun times while doing that until you finally do get to that point where you're going flawless maybe regularly. I think that's what makes it so special. Even when, myself and Cam and our friend Sides are playing, which is our main group of 3, our team, I have so many incredible memories of just like us playing and getting destroyed and talking about like what happened and what we need to do better and just putting in hard work until we're at the point where like, we get some intense matches and we show up and we do well. And it just like, it feels so good because you knew what you put into it. You knew what it took. So I think that makes it special.
Hey, we got shenanigans to remember too. Trials of the Nine, Celestial, Nighthawk, like it happened.
My God, I can only imagine. I didn't see that video, but I'll have to dig. Sentimental words from Sharp Cheddar Drew. Thank you very much, Drew. That was nice. Let's move on a little bit. What weapons did you guys see a lot of in Trials?
Hard light revoker.
Hard light revoker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of spare benders, but sniper and 600 AR. Suros was there. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say like I think snipers undoubtedly were the most common thing that I saw. I want to say even more than hard light. Of course, I played PC with controller, so I saw a good amount of hard light, yes, but I feel like snipers were like the most prevalent thing I saw all weekend.
I was actually getting like really excited on the rare times that you match into a game against a team that did not have a sniper, because I'm like, oh man, I can walk around corners. I can move.
Yeah.
I don't have to
can
dance
finally
like an
play the
idiot
game.
around the corner. Right. Yeah, that was exciting. Also, I played on PC for the first flawless card that I did. There was way more hard light than I thought. I was like, nah, they're gonna be on console. I'm not gonna see any hard lights on PC. No, not in PC. But they were like everywhere. I think it was like, wasn't that the most #1 used weapon all weekend in Trials?
It was
like 5 million kills.
Wow.
It was a ton. It was
wild.
the most represented. Yep.
Most represented. And people are pairing Revoker with that probably because
of course.
Because you get the free round if you miss. Sniping is really powerful in Trials.
Super low zoom gun too, right? It's the lowest zoom of any sniper, and the archetype of sniper that it is makes it really, really powerful. Can still shut down supers, which below can't anymore. So
I was gonna ask, do you want to revisit why that low zoom will matter? Merc, you want to talk about that?
Do we have time? Are we gonna run over? I don't mind doing it.
I think it's a great point. I just think it's a great point. Understand? Yeah, like
Give a
Well,
condensed version there, Mr.
Okay,
Wizard.
long and short of it is the higher your zoom, the more narrow your aim assist cone is. And the aim assist is how far the bullet can reflect away, basically to pull towards the head of the target, right? And so most snipers at 4.5 times zoom or higher, that aim assist cone is really, really super narrow, right? And what it does is it makes them feel good at longer distances, but up close, it kind of decreases the effectiveness because the cone is narrower. Revoker has really, really low zoom. Like I think it's equivalent to Twilight Oath and how low the zoom is.
Yep.
And because of that, the aim assist cone, even though statistically it doesn't have a lot of aim assist number-wise, the aim assist cone is really, really wide for a sniper rifle. So it's super, super forgiving, not to mention it's got an insanely wide field of view because of the low zoom. So it just, I don't know if there's another sniper in the game that is as strong of a like shorter mid-range weapon as Revoker is. Beloved was close because Beloved had a 4 times zoom, but Revoker's at 3.5, so.
And what's crazy about
Universal.
Revoker as well is that it has that super high range stat. Because if you look at, you compare to Twilight Oath was the first sniper of its kind to have that uniquely crazy low zoom, which is incredible. But Twilight Oath's range limited it in terms of how forgiving it would feel or how sticky it would feel. And it would confine it to a much shorter range. Whereas Revoker still gets to reap the benefits of that low zoom, but has like a crazy range stat that allows it to just be like so much more competitive at farther range as well, way less limitation. So it really is a very strong weapon.
It kind of seems like it was built for Trials, right? Even though we got it way before. It's like, it's got the low zoom. It's got the good stats on paper. It can headshot supers now, which the Beloved can no longer do without box breathing. It gives you a shot back if you miss.
It's the perfect sniper.
It's the perfect
is
sniper for Trials.
The thing is I would still use the weapon. I would still use Revoker if it didn't even refund that bullet.
Yeah.
Just to show
Yeah, me too.
truly a testament to how strong that gun is.
Wow.
I would use it. Like, I don't use it for that refunded bullet. Like, honestly, I don't think really twice about it. For me, it's just the stats of that weapon are just incredible.
Well, Drew, you never miss, so you never need that benefit anyway. Right?
I don't know. Sometimes I have rough days. Today's been a rough day for sniping for me. Trying to get the mojo back.
Gotcha. We're gonna move on. Cammy, I'm gonna start with you on this one. I feel like this question was maybe made for you. What weapons are people sleeping on in Trials right now?
Hand cannons with explosive rounds.
I want to hear you talk about that at great length right now.
Okay. So as we know, explosive payload, the perk, has a bullet portion and an explosive portion of the bullet that equals the same amount as a normal hand cannon bullet. So for a 140 RPM, that's going to be 70 damage, and the explosive is going to be split between it. And that means if I Revoker body shot somebody, switch to my hand cannon, and shoot them in the face across the map, it might kill, depending on certain resiliences, because it's the explosive rounds. Any other hand cannon in the game, not going to do it.
Now, why specifically, I know the answer, but tell the people, why are the explosive rounds special in terms of damage? Because there's no, am I wrong on this? Am I remembering correctly? Isn't there there's damage drop off on the bullet portion?
On the bullet, but not the
split,
explosive. That's the way to remember it, yeah.
There you go.
And then it also has additional benefits in Trials. Like, you get the obvious one, right, which is explosive rounds in the face. They might get that visual flinch element. But then there's also, if somebody is trying to revive something, you just shoot the floor, and it'll splash damage the orb, and they can't revive it.
That's great. That's why I was really digging Thorn this weekend. I mean, I love Thorn. I don't know about you guys. It's like one of my favorite weapons. Not only because it's just amazing, but like I think it looks cool. I'm like a secret edgelord, stuff like that. You know, write poetry at the graveyard type of mother fricker. But I love the lore behind the gun, and you shoot somebody in Trials, they're burning now. It's like so helpful, the tick damage. If they run around the corner, you see where they are. Now in Trials, you're hitting them with the shot, they get the tick damage, they can't revive their buddy.
Yep.
It's
Tons of
fantastic.
utility.
Fantastic.
So yeah, the explosive round Revoker combo I'm really liking. I think it's the better version of the hard light that everybody's trying to do, because it's just one bullet. One bullet's all you need to clean it up from across the map. But also you get to use cover more effectively, because at the end of the day, it's a hand cannon.
Right, and you can peek out and shoot and go back into cover, which you can't do with a hard light.
And if somebody stands behind cover, you have to look for that ricochet angle with hard light. Whereas with the explosive round, you just shoot the floor next to them, and even if it splashes 1 damage, they're not healing.
Right, that's true. Cool guy. What weapons are people sleeping on?
So I have a lot of experience with this because I went to PC. I played with Cam and Drew, and again, I was low light, and they knew I was low light. I was getting just absolutely eaten alive by max, hard lights. So we teamed and used Malfeasance for a card, and then teamed and used Outbreak. Now Outbreak is superior, and we'll talk about it in a second. But with Malfeasance, like they would pop a striker, and we would just get together and just melt them with Malfeasance because we share, right? And that for me, and especially going on in trials down the line, Malfeasance is an option if you're lower light because you're gonna get the 5-tap up to about, I don't know, 35 meters, 36, maybe even a little bit
It's
more.
something crazy.
It's something crazy, but that's body shot, right? You're always going to have that guaranteed body shot. But the deal with Outbreak, and what's so special about that, is after you get the kill, it drops all the nanites. So that res has nanites all over it. So they can't go up in res because the nanites tick them. And if they get close enough, they attach to them, and then you melt them with the Outbreak. Like, it's such a strong combo. Like, we were floored by it.
That's pretty
it was
funny. I hadn't
hilarious.
thought about that.
Very funny.
The
You'd
cool
hear that
guy,
alarm go off after the headshot. You already know.
Cool guy was using chromatic fire with it, so you just see kills where he would pop someone in the head. The Siva Swarm would go, like, you'd see an explosion go everywhere. The Siva Swarm would just latch onto the next person that the explosion just hit. It was hilarious. It was so funny.
Oh,
Team
we also
Outbreak is
comboed
strong.
that with the Sentinel grenades, the poison grenades.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's go to the
yeah.
commander. And
Yeah,
so
there
they would
was
get
a
like
time-
void poison attached to them. Then cool guy would get a headshot, chromatic fire explode. Nanites would ignite the poison of the other guys.
Yeah, I'm not completely clear on what exactly triggers that detonation or what you need to trigger the detonation of the Sentinel's, the middle tree Sentinel's poison ability. But I feel like when the nanites would hit someone that was tagged by that, it would almost always detonate them. I think it's maybe because of the frequency of the damage they were taking. I'm not sure, but it was hilarious. It was very strong, and just the enemies being debuffed universally. If for anyone on your team using Outbreak is just crazy. It was so good.
Yeah, when you get it down, it just locks it. It just locks them down for. I need to remember how long the nanites sit there because they're just sitting right over the orb. They cannot get close at all. Like their team's done because A, they can't revive them, and B, if they get even just a little bit close, they're just going to swarm onto them and they're going to be debuffed for however many seconds. Like it was really fun, really good.
Debuffed and damaged by the swarm too. Just crazy.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Sounds kind of savage. I might have to try
Next
that
level
out.
strats.
Big brain plays. What subclasses you guys are thinking are really strong for trials right now? Any
I'm
in
gonna
particular
say-
stand above the rest, or are you just kind of using the ones that you currently enjoy for reasons that you like?
I use the ones I currently enjoy. I think that Spectral is just it's my choice.
Drew,
I don't know.
you're a-
I think it's incredibly strong.
You're a wall hacker spectral. So like, are you finding a lot of the times that the wall hacking is coming in like big plays in trials?
Not as many times as you'd think, but I think the super on Spectral Blades is just way too strong for me to ignore. It's like that super is incredibly strong. It is so mobile. So I and evasive. So I think that for that alone, it's very strong. The camo, I always really like the camo. I use that even more so than the wall hacks. But the split second of wall hacks, just giving information to your team when you do get it, is very, very good. I want to say that I think that one class that really stood out to me was anything with arc bolts or the chaining grenades. So Stormcaller's grenades, arc bolts on Arc Strider, things of that nature. Because it was incredible the amount of losses I got to someone throwing a well-placed arc bolt or storm grenade that forced movement out of me. So they would throw it, force movement out of me to get out of cover, or just deal with the fact that I'm being arc bolted. And then while I'm being arc bolted, they push, and they push my team while, of course, I'm vulnerable, and they usually get a pick or two, and then as a result, a wipe. So I was pretty astonished at how powerful that was. So I think that would be my pick to watch out for. Any classes that can utilize that.
Especially with Arc Web. And you can get the bounce back damage too if everybody's grouped up.
Exactly.
They nerfed it in season 10, but even still,
Yeah,
it, like
it's
there were
still very
times where
strong.
I
Yeah.
lost rounds due to the power of Arc Weeb. Like you're all just close together trying to get a revive, and all of a sudden you're like, no, God, get away, get away.
Yeah.
They can't get away fast enough.
It's crazy. It forces your team to deal with it, and that's just so huge when you're trying to deal with that, and they're pushing you at the same time. It's crazy.
Do we got any upcoming map predictions for what Trials is going to be this weekend? Do we think it's going to be a new map or an old map?
Rusted Lands.
Anomaly.
Yeah, Anomaly. That's
I
where
think
it's going to
new
get
map. I think
really
Anomaly.
interesting because it might take
Anomaly and
snipers
Shotty.
out of play.
Interesting.
Or it might keep great snipers.
Yeah.
It's still in perspective. There's some good angles now with what they've kind of changed about that map, I feel. I'm hoping for Anomaly, though.
Should we make a wager, like live right here on the podcast?
Take your bets. My bet's on Anomaly.
I'm
What's
going
the,
Exodus Blue.
Oh, that's an interesting call.
Aristocrat.
Going off meta here.
All right, well, if we got nothing else to say about Trials, well, this is kind of tied to Trials. We're going to move on to our next big main topic of the night. Auto rifles and hardlight. Are they OP? Are they super broken strong? Do they need to be nerfed?
We say no to all of the above.
No.
Not OP, not broken, don't need to be nerfed. No. Really strong? Yeah, really strong. Yeah.
It's funny
That's it.
because we spoke about this last week. Our predictions were that they're going to be very strong, but they aren't going to be. I think we did say they're not going to be meta. They're going to be very strong contenders, but not meta. So it depends on what you want to use to define meta. But they are the most represented thing. So we could say that, I guess in that regard we were wrong because they are the most represented thing. But are they the strongest? I don't think so.
Right. It's like
I
I
think we
tell people.
underestimated Hardlight's range advantage and how good it is with no damage fall off, because that's really what sets it head and shoulders above a lot of other stuff, and the double damage bouncing, which is just crazy. But the fact that you don't get any damage fall off and it kills in 0.7 seconds, I mean, that's pretty good.
The thing is I looked at a lot of things, going back to the whole cones talk, accuracy cone, aim assist cone, and I don't feel like while I feel that unlimited or no damage drop off is very strong, I don't feel like that is the main thing that I think is so insane about it, because I really do think when you're at 40 meters or like long range, the likeliness of you killing in 0.7 seconds is so small. I think that likeliness is so small. Maybe if you're on M&K and of course you're not bound to things like reticle friction or stickiness, you got a bit more to work with, of course. But I don't think that regularly you're going to be melting people at very long range. Certainly not outside of 30 meters, in my opinion.
Cammy's the resident mouse and keyboard guy. Did you use Hardlight with mouse and
I
keyboard?
used Hardlight before it got buffed, as in preparation to talk about this sort of thing. And I had a lot of struggle dueling against hand cannons just because of the amount of flinch I would take. The biggest takeaway on mouse and keyboard Hardlight is that within about 9 to 10, 11 bullets, you'll actually see the reticle bloom outward. And so if you wait a quarter second to reset your fire and do another burst of 9 to 12 somewhere in there, you'll have a lot better time dueling people at pulse rifle plus distance.
Did you find that you were consistently dueling people on M&K at that range with the Hardlight? You were like specifically trying to get to those pulse ranges to get into a duel.
I tried to, because everybody uses hand cannons, and that's the only way you beat a hand cannon.
So what do you think about the masses clamoring right now for a potential Hardlight nerf, Cammy? What would you say to those people?
The best weapon against Hardlight to counter it is cover. And if they're ricocheting bullets, just reverse engineer it, right? Look at where it's ricocheting from. That's where you're going to slide and pre-aim.
Yeah, it totally gives away your position.
There are a couple clips of mine in Trials this weekend where I'm looking at this guy just trying his hardest to ricochet, and I just pre-charge a fusion rifle and walk around the corner because you know exactly where he's going to be. No radar needed.
Technically true.
I mean, we talked about last week the things we thought would make autos not meta. And it was the fact that hand cannons offer superior inner accuracy and the ability to dodge it out of cover. And we talked about that as these are the reasons why auto rifles will struggle against really good players. And it's like nobody thought about that. They just go head to head with an auto rifle and they stand right in front of them, and maybe they wiggle back and forth a little bit, and then they wonder why they got burnt down, right? It's like Cammy said, if you're not abusing the weaknesses of auto rifles, which is they have to maintain line of sight the entire time and they're basically rooted to the floor, yeah, you're probably going to lose to a gun that kills in 0.7 seconds. But
I also think the flinch per shot, like a hand cannon, if timed right, can absolutely knock you off target enough for them to do it again and again.
I agree. I think that because of the way hand cannon flinch works, or flinch scales to damage, right? So because hand cannons have such high damage output, they are usually going to knock a weapon like an auto rifle that relies on staying on target the entire time off for at least a few bullets here and there, which can hurt your time to kill. Couple that or pair that with a player that's going to play in and out of cover effectively, an auto rifle user is going to really struggle against that, as Merc said. So I think it's a mix of just hand cannons. If you're again playing your cover effectively, landing your shots, they really do pose a huge problem to auto rifles.
So pretty much, if I asked everyone here, if you had two players, high-level players of equal skill, going against each other, one with a perfectly rolled hand cannon, the other with a hard light, who wins the fight?
I think the hand cannon player.
On most Destiny maps. Now, if we're talking Eternity, I'd give it to the hard light.
I think in most scenarios, hand cannon should win. But the thing is with this is it always depends on the player. It always depends on the player. They have to be very disciplined. The TTK of 600 autos at the moment really, really punish even the slightest bit of error, in my opinion, which is where I can empathize with people that are saying it's very strong. I agree. It does punish even the slightest bit of error, the slightest bit of overcommitting to the fight. You do need to just really be disciplined to pop in and out of cover with a hand cannon. But I think that the whole thing with auto rifles, or a lot of the thing maybe with the perception of auto rifles, and I don't mean to sound arrogant in this, I think that auto rifles are a more prevalent choice or very strong at the mid-range or the mid-tier level player in terms of skill in the Crucible. And that's because at that level, again, players might not be as disciplined to be constantly just hugging cover, just playing so tight to cover, especially strafing in and out between each shot, let alone playing near that cover all the time. I consider myself a pretty decent player, and I still find myself slipping in that. So I think that around the mid-tier kind of level players, Hardlight probably seems like a really strong option because it capitalizes on, again, not playing cover all the time.
Well put.
Yeah,
I mean, go on.
Go ahead.
No, you.
I don't think that they're so 0.7 is really fast, right? And to put that in your minds, remember MagHow was 0.67, so it's like almost the same. It's right there, right? So I see a lot of people asking for a nerf, and I'm thinking they just buffed all these auto rifles. It could be a test, right? It could be a test for other weapons getting buffs, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a TTK buff. And we've talked about 140s getting a buff, and they don't have to, basically be just a 2 headshot, 1 body. Like, it doesn't have to be an actual TTK shift. But as far as hard light, I see players being really careless with it that are using it because it's so strong. Like, at least it can be out in the open, right? In a 1v1 duel, 25 meters and in, 30 meters and in. Or they're very reserved, kind of sitting back, taking shots. It's like they can be beat. And honestly, I personally believe Suros is actually a better dueling weapon in a 1v1 when it's 29, 30 meters and in. I really do. I don't think they're that much of an issue. Like, my first time I got a Dire Promise, it took 5,000 or 3,000 shards. I had a 44 kill game. Half of the enemy team had hard lights. One had a Suros. Like, it can be done. You just have to play a little bit different. They're mostly out in the open, and you shouldn't be.
It's true. I was playing Trials, and you can ask anyone in my chat. There were definitely moments where I would get heated, let's say, due to what I got killed by. But, you think about it later, you turn off. Of course, when you're in the game, the heat of the moment, sometimes you try to do your best to focus. Emotions can always get the better of you. But when you're thinking about it later, with a clean and clear head, you're like, you know what? I ran into that lane, dude. What was I expecting to happen? I literally ran into a lane that was being watched by 2 dudes with a laser light show in their hand. It's like, I deserve to get picked off. I didn't play cover. I was reckless. I played it wrong. You know what I mean? And I can get the frustration that, yeah, this gun is everywhere right now. It's everywhere. #1 used weapon all Trials weekend. But I think we might need to let it settle a little bit. Yeah, I think people are going to get smarter. I think that they're going to adapt. Of course, that's not going to be my words carved in stone for all of Season 10. If things continue to stay the same, I always think that the sandbox is worth taking a look at and reviewing based on what the player base is doing. So if they decide that, you know what, just too many people are using it, then they're going to do what they're going to do. I definitely think it is worth reviewing, considering. I think for right now, I think things will change from weekend 1 to weekend 2. In terms of like auto rifle abuse.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hype around them right now, and I think that word of mouth really spreads in this community so quickly. Like, you know, the influence, I don't know if you want to call it that, but the influence potential in this community is so huge that when someone says, or, you know, someone can hype someone up like, this is insane, and it can just spread like wildfire. And I think it's important that we take a step back and really be critical and level-headed about some of the weapons. Like, I am a firm believer that representation does not always equal power. Sure, it might be telling of consistency in some ways, but I don't think it necessarily means that it is an uncontested option, because there is, again, word of mouth as a tangible factor.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. Representation does not equal power. This could be totally circumstantial that something like hard light comes out of the woodwork. For example, power level enabled, artifact enabled in Trials. Why would you use a hand cannon if it's going to take an extra bullet when you could use a hard light that if it took an extra bullet, that's not much of a TTK difference. For a hand cannon, that's life and death. There's also the maybe emergence of sniper rifles in that too. Why use a shotgun if you're losing a meter or 2 when you could use a sniper and almost nothing changes with it?
Do you think that more people should be using the Suros? I know that Drew and Cool Guy both said about a couple minutes ago that you both think that the Suros is performing better than the Hardlight.
I do.
Very much so.
I do.
Very much so.
Lay it on me, Stretch. Cool Guy, talk to me about the Suros.
So, like, I'm actually working on this right now. So, like, I'm almost done with it. Like, how Suros is working weird, right? It got the damage bump. It actually does 24 to the head, not 26, right? And I think that's too... because it has spinning up and it also has glass half full. So how it works is once you get half of the magazine, it now starts doing 26, like all the other ARs. And how it works is once you get the glass half full doing 26, it reduces your range. So, like, I'm about to lay a lot. Like, it's weird how it works. So up to 28 meters, it's doing max damage. Once it gets glass half full, that fall off comes into 25 meters. So maybe when you're at 28, 29, it's doing 21, 22. But like how it works is 12 bullets, 12 bullets, 12 bullets. And Merc, just kind of remind me. So it does 600. Then at 12 bullets after that, it is 720. And then the last 12 is 900 RPM. And how those TTKs work out is it's like 0.7, 0.6, and then like 0.43. So like the last 12 bullets will delete you, right? So like how I'm looking at it as is pretty much in any duel, like you always want a fresh mag because you need spinning up of how it's working with glass half full. It's crazy how it works. But spinning up, getting the TTK to be able to hit body shots, like the body shot TTK at the end of Suros is a 0.7, right? So like that's just hitting pure body shots. So it's a better pure dueling weapon. Like if it's a 1v1 final game on Trials card, I would take Suros over Hardlight. Period.
100%.
It's like a little mini sweet business, right? I mean, you get it spinning up, and that TTK plummets down to the floor. Like people always forget about it, and then, like Cool Guy says, you get deleted on the last third of a mag, and because it's the same TTK basically, it's very close as Recluse with Master of Arms, right? Like it will, once someone gets it going, it will annihilate you. I definitely agree. It has more upside than Hardlight does in the hands of a skilled user.
And you get your health back, or a chance to.
Yeah. Chance to get your health back.
I'll leave this one as a teaser for future episodes, but I see Tommy's matchbook rising up. Yeah, I know.
Tommy's matchbook has a lot of very interesting potential. But on the topic of Suros, I think that Suros regime is just overall a better auto rifle than Hardlight. And the reason is for all the things these guys mentioned. But the craziest part is how I think Suros has a better time playing against someone using their cover than Hardlight does. And you might be thinking, well, with Hardlight, you can ricochet bullets, so they might ricochet. I really believe that the odds of that actually happening are so slim, and you have to be so lucky at the perfect angle. It's just not consistent. Suros regime, when you are in a duel versus someone using a hand cannon, a lot of the time what I do is, and I use this weapon before the buff a lot of the time, is I just, while I'm sliding into the gunfight to be a little bit more evasive with my movement, I'm already holding down the trigger. So by the time I'm engaging them, I'm probably entering 720 RPM, moving into 900 RPM. And if they play their cover and try and just peek in and out, they will peek into my spinning up at probably 900 RPM, which is going to completely peel them before they can get back into cover. So now my gun says, if you want to stay alive, you need to stay in cover now, and you need to be patient and wait for me to get rid of my mag and hope I don't have cover to get back into to reload and do the same thing. That puts so much more pressure on a hand cannon user, in my opinion, rather than Hardlight, which is, again, just trying to get whatever shots you can off on someone and kind of dump your mag as you would with any auto rifle.
I'd say Suros is better for the aggressive player, for sure.
Well put.
Yeah.
You reminded me, Drew, of you guys ever play SWAT in Halo?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Of course.
You played as an elite, didn't you?
Bunch of no, my fiance did though. With the
Assault
cheesy
helmet?
can't shoot them in the head when they're running around corners.
I know.
They got that weird arched back.
At the strong side with the elite, it's
I'm
impossible.
so glad that we're all men of culture, having played Halo SWAT. But like, it just reminded me of that, Drew. Where it's like, if you're fighting someone who's trying to use cover, you're using the Suros, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go into cover, and like, wait a second, then peek back out. It's like, you can peek back out. My Suros only got faster while you were behind that door frame.
Dude, like, I have so many clips of there was one even before the patch where we were all playing comp, getting ready, trying to brush off the rust or
Sure.
get back into the mood for trials, and we're playing comp, me, Cam. Was it? Yeah, it was me, you, and Sides, right? And
Yes.
I was the last one alive. This guy's got a machine gun. And like, I kind of knew where he was. I knew where he was going to push. And I just sat behind a wall at an awkward angle, spinning up. And I just peeked out. I knew he was out of cover. And it just beamed him, like literally faster TTK than his machine gun. Because again, it doubles down on the fact that it's going to punish you if you're out of cover. And if you're in cover and you peek, you're probably going to die.
I want to bring
good
up one
times.
last 600, and it's kind of hipster. Nobody really talk about it, but
Do it.
Monte Carlo. The deal with Monte Carlo
Yep.
is it's got the great TTKs, right? It's got the 0.7, and it's also got, what is it, the Markov chain?
Yeah.
I believe it does 33 after that, and you can just keep that going, I believe. And also, of course, you get a kill, you go to ×1 to a ×2, and so on. But it's also very strong. Not a lot of people are talking about it. And of course, you get your melee back.
I think a lot of people are just really in love with the idea of the I don't have range drop off on hardline. And I get
Yeah,
it. I
I do too.
understand
Yeah.
that makes it strong, but that's not the only factor with range, as we've talked about. There's going outside of what I tested was 30 meters. That is the end roughly of the aim assist cone. Outside of 30 meters, your bullets are not being aim assisted. Yes, this matters on mouse and keyboard and controller as well. And that means your gun's overall going to have less consistency. It's not going to land headshots as frequently. And you're probably not going to be getting that 0.7 TTK outside of that. So yes, it's a great thing to have. And it's, it's a great it's great hypothetically. But within that 30 meters, I strongly believe that as much as, again, hardlight might be a little easy to aim because of some other factors like its stability, but things like Monte Carlo and Suros within that 30 meters have, I think, do a better job on a consistent basis in terms of lethality for the reasons we talked about.
So part of the reason why I love Hardlight so much is because to me, it's one of the only auto rifles in D2 that feels the way vanilla auto rifles felt in D1, right? Like obviously we started D1 and we had a Suros regime meta for a period of time where it was the greatest scout rifle in the game.
Oh, so
but
good.
underneath that meta, all auto rifles were really, really strong. And coming into the dark below, there was a Crucible vendor auto rifle called For the People, right? And like that was my baby. That was my go-to. And that was before auto rifles got their range taken way down. They've never fully recovered until Uriel's and now Hardlight. They never fully recovered, but they were pretty much mid-range weapons in D1 and early D1. And my For the People had great range, and it was a 600 RPM auto. And I felt like at the beginnings of pulse rifle range, I was competitive with it. Hardlight is almost that exact same feeling. Like, yeah, I know that really it's outside of 30 meters, but right now 30 meters is basically pulse rifle range. 30 meters is, now that pulse rifles have had their range brought down, hand cannons have had their range brought down, fusion rifles have had their range brought down, all the engagement distances, except for scout rifles, have been compressed, right? And so to me, Hardlight feels the most similar to a D1 600 RPM auto rifle, pre-range nerf, more so than anything else. And that's why I've been enjoying it. But you are, 100% correct. The damage drop-off is not going to allow you to get cross-map kills on Equinox, or, you're not going to kill someone 70 meters away with a Hardlight 99% of the time. So
Yeah, it's not saying that it doesn't have the potential or the consistency. Like, I agree. It feels strong, and it maintains a lot of potential for reasons that you said. But it's just when people say it's a 0.7 TTK from anywhere,
no,
my dude,
It's not.
it's not.
Show me all the clips
likelihood,
of you, like 80 meter mapping people with that.
yeah.
That
I mean, like, but
optimal
even
time
on
to
a
kill
lane
from
down
Hardlight.
on burnout, like someone, from the inside to the outside, sometimes, you're the likeliness of you just beaming someone in 0.7 seconds is very unlikely. It's very unlikely.
what if you start playing those angles and you start bouncing shots into people down a lane?
Hey man,
In a
simple
rift.
geometry.
In a rift.
Yeah,
Hmm?
yeah.
Then you're a genius. You
Pro
deserve it.
gamer moves. Pro gamer moves.
I think that they're both strong, and I honestly it sounds so crazy that we're here with ARs. Like, I feel like the Hardlight Suros thing, like it's almost like a Thorn Last Word type deal. Like, you're gonna have your favorites and your reasons why you have your favorites, but they're both good.
Yeah,
Well put,
I think
boys.
there's
Well
a
put.
reasonable argument. Source is better, but
I mean, obviously. But
Let's move on to our final part, where we answer questions from you people at home, the community. So I put out the promo for today's episode on Twitter, and a whole bunch of people hit us with a bunch of questions. I don't know about you guys, but I frequently get hit up for questions in YouTube comment sections and Twitch and Twitter, everywhere. So I have a small selection of questions here, thanks to those who submitted. Here's one from Russian05 on Twitter. With all the Hardlight and Suros running rampant in the PvP right now, what are the best weapons to counter an auto rifle user?
great
Cover.
question.
The weapon of cover.
Any
The
weapon
weapon of cover.
that allows you to use cover, though, is going to be strong. Could be hand cannons, could be pulse rifles, could be burst sidearms, or any single shot sidearm as well. Just not the full auto Suroses, which I don't know if anyone actually uses, but they do exist in the game. I mean, I've found pretty good success with Arantel still, as long as they're inside 20 meters, which, as I think Cammy pointed out earlier, a lot of the Hardlight players get really overconfident based on the strength of the weapon, and they push really, really aggressively. Arantel may have had its range nerf, but it's still very, very strong with inside its optimal engagement distance. And kind of a weird thing, some of the pulse rifles, like Outlast, Claws of the Wolf, I've had good success with Vigilance Wing. Anything that's fast firing that can put a lot of damage onto him quickly and start getting that flinch, start building up. It's not going to happen all at once like a hand cannon does, but with Vigilance Wing, it's doing almost 100 damage per burst. So you hit him with one burst, it's one of the things that I found most successful at flinching Hardlight users off of my head.
Yeah, my really good friend Rhythm, I don't know if you know him, Twitch streamer on
Yeah.
console. He was putting in work with the Vigilance Wing. He was like thirsty for the Hardlight users. He was punching them really hard.
Stronger
I
than
think it's a
people
good
think it
weapon.
is.
Harsh Truths and Last Man perk.
Yeah.
It's borderline a perfect Trials weapon.
Yeah.
It's no
Yep.
joke. All right, I think that
So-
question sufficiently answered. Drew, you got something to add there?
Oh, I was gonna say, I think that I want to piggyback on the Vigilance Wing, that it's so many people have forgotten about this weapon. It's still insane. Again, nearly 100 damage potentially per burst. is incredible. Like, you can't play cover with it as much as maybe some other pulses. It's got a slightly longer burst in terms of duration, but like that kind of pressure, putting that damage on an auto user and just going back into cover, you are in such an advantageous position against them. And then my other thing would say, just going back to basics, like everyone else said, like pull out a hand cannon. Oddly enough, even without raid bossing people, Sturm and Drang is actually a combo that, or like 110s, I guess, really put a lot of pressure on auto rifle users. And I was even using Ace of Spades a little bit, just because with Memento Mori, that high damage output, anything that lets you put high damage on them, and at very quick intervals, is just, that's how you do it. Go back to fundamentals, back to basics.
Good stuff. Here's one from Total Sunbro. My sidearm, which he says is a Breachlight with a Demolitionist and Vorpal weapon, feels pretty good, but how do sidearms overall compete in this sandbox, in your opinion?
I'll take it.
Do it, buddy.
I think, because I believe that shotguns are about 8 meters now consistently. 7.5, 8. They lost a little bit of range. And that means the world in CQC, right? So that means knee slides have to be a little bit closer to you. That means a whole bunch of things. I use sidearms quite a bit. I have that same exact Breachlight. I use a Drang. I think Drang is criminally one of the best.
Drang is really good.
Because as Drew pointed out in his video, it's got an inherent zoom modifier on it. Like, it hits max damage at up to 19 meters. Like, it's insane for a sidearm. And you can be, and it has all the accuracy that comes with the sidearm. So you can be up in the air, you can do a whole bunch of things. Things like Top Tree Dawn, just jumping up in the air and just coming straight back with the dodge, just making that gap longer that they have to carry. Like, you can do quite well with them. I don't really understand why I don't see more of them.
Probably because shotguns are easier.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when you get that Drang play, you're like, oh yeah, brother, real gamer hours. 200 IQ play right there. It's just like, it feels really good, but
it takes more effort. I do think it takes a little bit more effort,
yeah.
because you are required to be conscious about your position on the radar relative to the person that you're playing against, and you're trying to bait a shotgunner out into a place where they are now vulnerable, and you can sustain a little bit of damage, but you ultimately get to punish them with the fast CTK and range of the sidearm. So it takes a little bit more thought. So I think that's why maybe it's not used as much. But I do think the potential, like Cool Guy said, is just insane. And that's why I mentioned Sturm and Drang, because Drang is, in my opinion, it's the best sidearm. It is incredible. I compare it to a legendary version of The Last Word. It truly is insane. So between Sturm being able to just put down high damage on autos and Drang being able to counter those shotguns, I think that combo's got some new life in it.
Here's a question from Sadrak. I'm going to direct this one at Cammy first, as our resident M&K master. I'm paraphrasing this question, by the way. Can you give me some quick thoughts about the current state of the Season 10 Last Word?
I like it a lot. I know this one's going to be tough to hear, but the fact that I can fire it from the hip has opened up a whole new world. And I know you could hip fire it before, but it's not like I could more often than not guarantee my headshot.
I want to ask though, Cam, can you talk more about the consistency? Because I think that's a very hot topic with M&K and Last Word.
Obviously, M&K got that stability. Is production the right word? It's harder to control. That's what I'm getting across. Yeah. And as we know here, how the cones and bloom and whatnot work, I think it's so important to land that first shot so that you get the fanfare bonus that's associated with The Last Word that helps mitigate all those bad things. So if you miss that first shot, just drop the full auto.
Do you think
that's
overall,
how I improve the consistency?
Do you guys think overall the change was good? Because I know that a lot of people who consider, especially the M&K folk, who were like, oh man, Last Word is my baby. I know a lot of them were feeling sad about the changes. Do we think they were deserved for the better?
I don't know what their experience is like, but I know what my experience was like. If I play Rumble and one person pulls out The Last Word, there's 6 people on The Last Word now. That's not the case anymore. They tried, and they go back to Hard Light. They can't do it anymore.
I like the way you put that.
I spent a lot of time at least on controller in the last I want to say 24 hours using Last Word, and I think it's okay. I want to say it's good. I noticed some things immediately when the patch note or the changes hit. If you look at controllers crosshairs with the Last Word, they now seem to match the crosshairs that you'd get with any hand cannon on mouse and keyboard. And why this is important is because there are some changes they made at the hip level to the accuracy cone, and the accuracy cone and aim assist cone of the Last Word on controller, to make it match more of the ADS. So that's why it feels good when hip firing now. It's felt good, I want to say, but like Cam said, I think no matter if you're using a controller or MNK, the fan fire bonus is essential. You need to land that first hit if you want to continue to fire at a fast rate of fire, because you need that bonus in order to maintain your accuracy. Otherwise, it's going to bloom out, and it's just going to feel like you're firing blanks and firing, like just hip firing blanks on any random hand cannon. The fan fire bonus, I think, is essential. I don't know if you can agree with that, Cam, with your experience on mouse and keyboard.
You do need to apply very consistent downward tension if you're shooting M&K. Like almost aim for, instead of their forehead, their neck, while still applying downward tension, especially if you miss that first shot. As you get fan fire stacks, you do a little bit less of that. It's intuitive. It makes sense after using it for 50 games in a row. But if you use it for 5 games and just throw it to the side, you're not going to get it.
So you don't want, like, again, this is also my experience on controller. You can tell me if it's the same, but you don't want to be spamming shots. You don't want max rate of fire if you do not have fan fire. You need fan fire stacks, and you need to also aim, from my experience, with the small little lines of the crosshair, not the outer circle. The outer circle is your aim assist cone, which sure you can try, but it's not guaranteed to be a hit. The little lines is what you want to aim with, and you need fan fire to accelerate or continue to fire at near max rate of fire. If not, you got to pace your shots until you get that. The cheat route to that I found was Lucky Pants. I'm probably going to talk about this in a future video at some point, but Lucky Pants increases the accuracy on your hand cannon. So if you got Lucky Pants, if you just draw Last Word, yeah, max rate of fire all the way out, fast rate of fire, and you're just going to paint them in headshots. And it's insanely consistent. I thought it was good on controller before Lucky Pants, but with Lucky Pants, it's like you're pretty much ADSing a hand cannon. It's nuts.
Does anyone have that relative where you bring up one topic and then they go off for like an hour on that topic? It's like
Yep.
It's like me when I talk to Drew and I bring up the Lucky Pants. He's like, "Follow, let me tell you about the Lucky Pants."
My man, Lucky Pants.
I feel like it's kind of refreshing because, like, you go into PvP, what do you see hunters wearing? Come on, one of 2 exotics. What are they?
Stompies, man.
Capri Sting.
Hunters who
Stompy's
aren't
Dragon
cool
Shadow.
guys. Yeah, Stompy's Dragon Shadow. And then you get the cool guys with the Capri Sting. Oh man, we should have talked about that future episode. But
Future episode.
yeah, dude, don't sleep on the Lucky Pants. They're awesome. Pair them with that.
Yeah,
last word,
I
buddy.
guess last thing with the Last Word is the hip fire. Obviously, when you aim down sights, your movement is slowed. But if you fire from the hips, it's as fast as it can be. So there were moments in Trials where hard lights legitimately get slapped because you're peaking at 10 mobility speed from the hip. Pop them in the face, back to cover. Pop them in the face, back to cover. And it's at a faster RPM that even 150s can offer. So they just don't know what to do.
Damn right. Here's one. Actually, why don't we throw this one to Mercules real quick? Because he brought it up a minute ago. From Dayman49. Love that name, by the way. Have any of you tried fusion rifles since the new patch? How do they feel?
Yeah. I mean, I've played with a bunch of fusions. Obviously, I have like 10,000 kills on one of my Aaron tools. So I really, really, really enjoyed fusions. I've loved them even when they were a heavy weapon. After the patch, the range change is definitely noticeable. I mean, I wasn't the person who was using firmly planted to get 60-meter kills with my Aaron tool before, but I did have a long zoom scope, and I was trying to, I could consistently get 30+ meter kills, maybe out to 40 meters if I was really trying. Can't do that anymore. Pretty much a struggle. I would say their best range is inside of 20 meters now. But if you were good at fusions before and you were good at pre-charging and pre-firing, they're still really strong, man. The ability to kill someone in 4 bolts, and what to them seems instant because you precharged, it cannot be overstated how powerful that still is. I mean, I mentioned earlier where I said I think it's still one of the best hard light counters that exist, and I believe that that's the truth. I also tried some of the other fusions. I kind of wanted to see if the range nerf, because they were ambiguous about it in the TWAB. I want to see if the range nerf had affected some of the other ones. Honestly, it comes down to the fact that it just doesn't really matter. When you get into the lower impact ranges, needing 6 bolts to kill or 5 bolts to kill just dramatically increases how difficult it is, especially on controller, to just consistently nab kills. And I used main ingredient for a little while. I used a critical sass for a little bit. Just wasn't really feeling it because it felt like the best range for those was like sidearm distance or maybe like 15 meters. And honestly, I just preferred my last dance inside of 15 meters anyways. So I went right back to Arental. I mean, you're not gonna get an 80-meter kill anymore. It's just the plain and simple. And people who were upset about getting mapped at 40 meters are probably not gonna have that issue anymore. But they just changed the engagement range, man. You adapt, and they're still really strong.
I just want to point out that the nerf to the floor of their distance and also to the scopes, this Trials fusion that came out, Exile's Curse, would not be used if those nerfs didn't happen. Right? A lot of them wouldn't be used because they don't have the zoom. They don't have the perks for it. But the deal with this one, and I got one with Firmly Planted. This is the Trials fusion. Firmly Planted Disruption Break. So check this out. A lot of people think I value Disruption Break a little too much, Rick Cacus. But the thing about it is, even in PvP, when you break someone's shields, you debuff them 50% more damage. So I have a clip, and this is how cool this is. So even if I can't get the long range kill, like the floor of this thing is about 25 per bolt, 24 per bolt. So if I land 4 of them and I break their shields, they're debuffed. I have a clip of it probably 42 meters away. A hunter, I break his shields, and he uses Worm Husk. I shoot him with a thorn in the head. It does 101, and then burn ticks him down. So like a roll like that can still work, right? And what's nice about Disruption Break on that fusion, and I plan on talking about it, is, since they don't have the range, you might still in your mind think that you can get those long ranges. Well, this one isn't going to kill them, but it's going to break their shields. That way you can start searching with your kinetic at that point and just one-shot them with pretty much anything. I think that fusions in general are in a consistent spot within their intended range, and the high impacts still are kind of on top because of how much they do per bolt. What do you think, Merc?
I mean, I agree, and I think what you brought up about the scopes not mattering as much is huge, because it used to be it was Arental or Alonthra. Alathra? Is that how that one's pronounced? But now you've got Wise and Rebuke, you've got Loaded Question, you've got the new Trials fusion. I mean, it's kind of opened up the court to a lot more players in the high impact archetype, which you didn't really get to see before because long zoom scopes were king.
Yeah, I used them because bounties in Trials. We had to use fusion rifles to get extra tokens. So I used the Trials fusion just because I had it in my inventory. I had one with Disruption Break as well. I put Quick Access Sling of all things on it. I would just throw away my first bullet on just pre-fire. And if there happened to be a second person, it was immediate shield break and cleanup.
It's a cool combo. I love it.
So overall, we're not feeling press F to pay respects for fusions. They're not dead. They're still very much viable. Maybe in a better place overall. A more realistic, consistent
Not
place.
to me, but to anyone who doesn't use fusions, yeah, I think they're a lot more fair of a weapon now than they were before.
Much more fair.
Much more fair. Here's our final question. It's a two-parter. Gonna hit everyone on this one. From the Zero Uno. Can you talk about or recommend a beginner Trials of Osiris loadout? And what can new players and veteran players both do to prep every weekend for Trials?
I'll start.
A deep one.
I'll start.
Take it away.
So
Yeah.
what might be good for someone might not be best for you. I mean, a lot of people are using Hard Light and Suros. If you're not doing well with them, you don't have to use them. But do me a solid that if you're trying to get better, especially if you're using, let's say, the ARs, right? Hard Light, Suros, let's use that as the example. Set yourself up for success. Like on the artifact right now, it takes 5 total energy. You have enhanced unflinching, you have enhanced reloader, you have enhanced targeting. And the enhanced targeting is better aim down sight speed, it's better accuracy, and it's better target acquisition. And of course, you get the fast reload and you get the unflinching. So these are the enhanced versions. There's no reason why you shouldn't have them on. So whatever you're using, just set yourself up the best that you can and then go from there. I don't think that there is, and you're going to be hearing about it on Twitter and on YouTube and watching your favorite streamers, you know, like this is the way. That isn't necessarily true. Like I said, I had to use malfeasance, right? And like nobody's really using malfeasance, but you can do well. It's more so about your teamwork and your communication. So I would use whatever you're most comfortable with. And as far as the prep, try to find a team and get some chemistry going. That's going to be the main thing, your communication. And in your off time, maybe you can play some Elim in the regular playlist. Focus on calling everything out because you have 3 sets of eyes seeing different things. Try to make it to where each single, like you're seeing the same picture, essentially. That's what I'd recommend starting off.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on the back of that one real quick. You guys ever do like a trials carry and someone comes in and they're like, "Hey man, tell me what guns to use. Just tell me what guns to use." I'm like, "Well, what guns do you normally use?" Because like, I can tell you what the meta weapons are. Sure, I mean we all know what they are because we go up against them every hour. But like it's gonna be different for each person. Like if you have someone who's like, I really love auto rifles, like even before the hard light buff, you know, it's like I just love auto rifles. But tell me what to use. I'm like, we'll use an auto rifle, like because you're no good to me and you're no good to your team and yourself. If I put this gun in your hand, here, take this hand cannon, be pro, dire promise, 3 headshots, booyah, and he can't land any headshots, that's not gonna help. You know what I mean? It's like you can definitely get a list of recommended weapons based on what is popular in the playlist, based on what you see people out there using. I don't know about you. Sometimes, like, if I'm playing a new game, I get killed by something. I'm like, okay, well, what was that? You know, you do your homework. Like when I first played Call of Duty, you get killed by a gun. You're like, that was wild. What gun was that? You like write it down. You're like, I want to get that. And like unlock all the attachments. Yeah. But like it all boils down to what feels good to you. You can make anything work. I mean, it's kind of an extreme example because you have 3 full-time content creators, but going flawless with the malfeasance. But they use the malfeasance. And I would recommend for prepping every weekend for trials. I don't know what you guys do. I just go into matchmaking. I just go into quick play, like alone. I put on some music. I don't know.
I think you might be talking in like regards to power level.
Power level prep, not like personal prep.
So I mean,
That's
for
fair.
that, you do your powerfuls to even out your gear after reaching the soft cap of 1,000. Do a pinnacle, do some powerfuls to level them out. More pinnacles, more powerfuls, rinse, repeat. Don't overthink it. It's not going to make that big of a difference over the course of like 9 weeks.
Now I'm curious though, does aside from the practical, like, oh yeah, do your powerful, do your pinnacle, do these bounties, do you guys have any personal routines before you do like actual, like not just like oh, I'm just gonna go on and just do low effort PvP. Like let's say you're getting ready for like a big trials game, something like that. Like when you got ready for when trials came back, your first ever card. Was there anything personally that you did to like prepare, or you just kind of went in cold?
For me at least, I always have a habit of I put on some music. I always put on music that makes me feel good. That's fun. I play a few games, but I don't play too many because and I make sure I'm listening to music while I'm doing so because I find that if I get on for the day and I start going right into PvP, typically I like to do PvE first. I find that I'm always consistently doing better at the game when I do PvE first, then PvP. Because if I hop into PvP and I'm not doing like up to expectation for myself, I'm just in a bad mindset for the rest of the day. So it's either do PvE first, or I go to PvP with music. So then I'm just focusing on just fun music. You know, I love listening to my Taylor Swift. So never in a bad mood when I'm doing that. So that's what I typically do. And then I hop in. That's my little ritual.
I can echo off that. I have a similar process, and now especially that I'm picking up maybe a second game to sink my time into, I really have to respect my time with Destiny and make the most of it. So same thing, a little bit of rhythm game to just warm up my arm, like physically get my body warm so that my room, as my PC heats up the room and whatnot, I still have a good temperature and I'm not physically sweating and whatnot over the course, but play a little PvE, work through what I call my shopping list, which is like a list of weapons and armor and stuff that I want that I think would be fun for a video. And while I'm working away at chipping off those weapons, play some PvP. Maybe 2 games in, I'm back to normal.
So I do some kind of similar. I hop into PvP and I have a huge selection of guns that I keep like on me at all time, all the guns that I love playing with the most. And I kind of just switch them in and out until I find something I'm feeling good with. And then I'll play a couple games of that and I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to work. Then I will spec my loadout into making sure, like we were talking about, Cool Guy was mentioning this earlier, but I make sure that I have every single perk that could possibly benefit the play style that I'm going to be running, right? I make sure my scavengers are set up correctly. My targeting enhancers are set up. I make sure that my reloads are set up. So I basically make sure that I'm giving myself every little tiny advantage. And I mean, you can tell when your shot's on and when it's not, right? So I don't stress out about it a ton, but I just kind of try to play to get warmed up to where I feel like, okay, yeah, my shot's on, and then just go play.
That was actually kind of interesting hearing everyone's routine. kind of enjoyed that.
What about you, Follow? What do you do?
I just like, I'll put on.
You mentioned music.
I put on music, but I mean, dude, I listen to a lot of old music. I don't think it's old, but like every time I talk to Twitch chat, tell them what I'm listening to.
I'm not gonna think it's old either.
Fallout, you're old, dude. I listen to like Blink 182 and Sum 41.
I respect it.
Yeah, dude. Crank it, man. This puts you in a good mindset for PvP.
What I do is it's going to be kind of weird. Like what I do is I get what I want to use, right? And in this case, I was using Revoker Not Forgotten. I actually go into, and some of you might know, not know that this is a thing, like the skill-based PvP playlist by myself, right? So like I don't go into Classic Mix. I go into Clash or Control. And what I do from there is I know I'm going to be playing some good players, and I just work on my shot with each loadout. So like I was using a Monarch at some point. I was using a Suros, Not Forgotten. Like that was pretty much it. Then of Malfeasance. So I was just kind of rotating those out, getting a feel for it in those playlists. That's what I do.
The way you set up that answer, you were like, all right, this is going to sound a little weird. I was like,
it wasn't weird at all.
First I take my pants off, and I light the candles. And...
The first thing I do is spread peanut butter on my controller. Like that's
how that shot gets really sticky.
Make a nice Doritos paste.
God.
Right here.
That was a good question. Thank you for that one, Zero.
I wanted to quickly add on to the loadout part. I know, like, rewinding a little bit, but I think a massive point of Destiny, and I kind of think of the loadout as like a deck of cards, if you will, like building your deck or the deck building aspect. I think arming yourself with knowledge and using that and finding moments of like kind of ingenuity with your loadout is the best thing to do. There's going to be things that people recommend, like Follow mentioned. There's going to be some weapons that are just better than others. And again, like weapons that are considered top tier and people can recommend. But I think a lot of it is just you arming yourself with the knowledge of what is the strength of an auto rifle, what is the strength of a hand cannon, of a sidearm, of a sniper, whatever it may be, and creating a synergistic loadout that plays to your playstyle. Again, the best way to do that, in my opinion, that I love to do it with, or how I love to do it, is just learn a lot about the game. Watch videos, watch other players play, ask questions from some people that might be knowledgeable, like many of the people here. Learn about your sandbox. And then from there, you can use your own ingenuity to create a loadout that is crafted just for you and play great.
I don't think anyone's going to top that. I think that's excellent closing words of advice from Drewsky Swift, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Firing Range podcast. I don't know about you guys. I've been having a great time doing these. Fun times all around. Thank you so much. We're going to do a quick round the room. Please tell the people at home where they can find you. Cool Guy, tell them.
YouTube.com/CoolGuyTips, and streaming would be Twitch.tv/I_am_CoolGuy.
Drew, where can the people find you?
You can find my YouTube or my videos on YouTube/Drewsky's channel. My Twitch, where I live stream, is twitch.tv/Drewskys, and on Twitter, it's @Drewskys channel.
Cammy, other than my dreams, where can the people find you?
The Rumble playlist. No. YouTube.com/CammyCakes Gaming, Twitch.tv/CammyCakes.
Special shout out. I'm really glad that you were able to join us tonight on this one.
It's been fun. I'm looking forward to more episodes.
Merc, tell the people at home where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Mercules904, on Xbox Live, Mercules904, and you can find the other podcast I do, which actually we're recording tomorrow night. It's the Massive Breakdown podcast, and that is everywhere you can find podcasts, and also on Reddit, which is actually like my assault-filled home. So if you're ever there and you see the Massive Breakdowns, it's me.
And I'm your host, Fallout. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/FalloutPlays and twitch.tv/FalloutPlays. Thank you all very much for joining us for this podcast. Things are going a little wild in the world right now, so do me a favor, everyone, be safe, take care, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Peace.
Good night.
Good night.